Hi, Jack Canfield here. Welcome back to another segment of Talking About Success. My guest today is Dr. George Springer. He's the author of this book called The Gut Connection, The Undiagnosed Link to Chronic Health Problems. And Dr. Springer is a past associate professor of gastroenterology. I'm just excited I can even say that word, at Logan University, and has practiced functional natural medicine for 36 years. So let's talk about that for starters. What is functional natural medicine and how does it differ from conventional medicine?
Well, with functional medicine, we're really looking at the natural physiology of the body and looking for alterations in that physiology, because those are the real causes, or cause, as the case might be, of these different conditions that people are coming in with symptoms. So instead of actually chasing symptoms, we're actually looking for the causes of those symptoms. And so once we correct those naturally, then we're able to get a full restoration, a full correction of the condition, and the person is not dependent upon anything going forward. So we're really looking for cause.
Mm-hmm. I use this metaphor sometime at my work that it's like there's a fire alarm goes off. It's really irritating you. So let's go over and just cut the wires to the fire alarm.
Ignore the smoke.
But there still is fire, so you're going to the fire.
Exactly.
Looking for exactly what it is. So this is an interesting field. How did you get into that?
Well, it began with my own condition. When I was about 13, I was actually diagnosed with a digestive condition. Eventually it was called ulcerative colitis. And for 10 years, it was managed conventionally, and I followed that direction. And 10 years later, I ended up having surgery. And it was about the same time I was becoming aware that all I was really doing is treading water. I was not getting full correction of what was there. I'll obviously end up having surgery. So what I started doing at that time was looking for other solutions, and found there's a whole world of natural solutions were out there, people looking for causes. In those days, it wasn't called functional medicine yet, but it is beginning to evolve that direction.
Mm-hmm. So here we have gut connection.
Yeah.
And why the gut?
Well, and that was initially didn't start out that way, because I was working on patients, and as part of a normal course of things, I would actually discover they had imbalances in their digestive system. Sometimes they had symptoms and sometimes they didn't. But one of the things that started happening is they would come in and say, I know about my gut because you've been working on that, but my headaches are gone. My skin rash is better. So I started noticing the correlation between correcting the gut and then the alleviation of all these other symptoms. And as time evolved, I started seeing more and more of these things coming to fruition. And so we started painting this picture that these protocols for the gut really had very widespread effects. What I also noticed, and we also found, is that the medical literature was beginning to substantiate this. So it wasn't just something I was discovering, other people were noticing it and beginning to document it as well.
Now, I was looking at your book, and I was looking at some of the, I think there were like 35 different chronic diseases or chronic conditions, let's call them, chronic symptoms, whatever, that the gut is related to. I was shocked by that, and as I was looking down that list, I was going like, oh, that's my sister, that's my brother, that's me, that's my daughter,
right.
Talk about that connection and talk about some of the chronic diseases that you're referring to so people know the scope of what you're working with this book.
Well, and because the gut's connected in so many different ways, and I say connected because it's 80% of our immune system is in our gut.
80%?
80%.
That was news to me.
Yeah. And so that much immune system reaction, therefore any imbalances there is going to have a huge effect on the immune system. So we get different kinds of inflammatory conditions that spring off of that. Certainly things like IBS and IBD and GERD, these are all digestive complaints people have, and of course those are in the gut. Mm-hmm. But then less obvious are things like allergies, which we talked about, skin rashes and those other kinds of things are all because the immune system gets sensitized, it gets upregulated, as we sometimes call it, and becomes very reactive. If it advances far enough, then we get more advanced conditions like lupus and RA and some of these other now termed autoimmune type conditions. Autoimmune issues have their origin in the gut.
Mm-hmm. Now, I before we came on air, I said, okay, you do muscle testing as one of the things you do to find out what's going on with people. And I, like all people, when they find a doctor who does something, who you go, do me.
Yeah.
So you muscle tested me and you pressed on my small intestine, my large intestine, and said, okay, you got a problem.
Yep.
Which makes sense, because I was telling you I have tree pollen allergies. I have some pain and like inflammation in my hands right now. So I got very excited.
Yes.
So talk about what are some of the protocols you use. I'm looking forward to using them in my own life here to help people overcome this situation and get their gut into the condition it should be so these chronic conditions disappear.
Right. Well, as we talked about, there's 5 major things you do to fix the gut, and they're all outlined in detail. Really, the book is designed, the Gut Connection is designed to be really a step-by-step guide for anybody to be able to use for themselves to help themselves, or it can be used with some progressive physician to help guide you along the way. But it gives you everything I use on my current patients to help them correct that, and that's balancing things like microbial imbalance in the gut, knowing which probiotic to use, also things like food allergies, repairing the lining, all that's pretty much outlined in there. What you mentioned about the muscle testing, I refer to that as functional response testing, and it's just a protocol that we can tap into your nervous system, and your nervous system is going to tell us what's working and what's not working in your body.
So it is a book for patients, it's a book for physicians. I mean, there's a lot of self-medicating going on in America right now, as you probably know. And I think a lot of it, from what I've seen and probably even been a victim of, not victim, but guilty of myself, it's not always well done.
Right.
So this book is a guide to how to do it a little more intelligently in terms of helping get rid of some of these conditions that are really, you shared a statistic today when we were talking earlier. I think it ended up like about half of Americans are suffering from these chronic conditions. Just talk about that for a second.
Right. Well, I went through and I just named, for example, 50 million people have some form of allergy. Mm-hmm. And we were naming 50 million just in terms of allergies alone. Mm-hmm. And you start adding in some of the other things like ulcerative colitis and those things. And that was just a few of the conditions of the 34. So I named only 9 of the major things on that list, and that was 152 million people suffer from one of those conditions. So statistically, basically over half of the United States, half the people in our room that we sometimes will have that many people having those things. So
look to your right, look to your left. One and a half of you have problems.
So it's and that's the big thing is what's happening is these chronic conditions are not only affecting the lives of people, but it's bankrupting our medical system.
It is not good. So if people want to find out more about you, more about your work, more about this wonderful book, where do they go?
Well, they go to our website, thegutconnection.com. And there they can learn more about the book and purchase the book if they like, as well as some of the training that we're doing to extend this out to more and more people.
Wonderful. Look at his face. I love you.
Thanks.
You're so, it's like, I just feel I can trust you.
Thank you.
You really know what you're doing. I'm really eager to work with you to get my own gut back in shape.
Looking forward to that.
So I really appreciate it. All right. You've heard the man. He's got the answers for a lot of problems that some of you are dealing with out there. So, when you know the information, you have to act on it. We don't want self-esteem. We want self-esteem. So don't just read the book. Do what's in it. Go to his website. Connect with this man. Dr. Springer, thank you so much for being a guest on the show.
My pleasure, Jack. Thank you.
All right. Stay tuned. We'll be right back after this.